makes sense then, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it is now officially 12:01. So that means that hopefully we have enough people joining us and we're ready to start. Just a quick reminder, thank you for joining us, of course. And if anybody had watched our 2 previous panels, welcome. And anybody that's new, of course, welcome. Before we start, we'd like to acknowledge that we are on unceded Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, Squamish territories. And for those who do not know, unceded territory is First Nations people, is territory First Nations people never ceded or legally signed away to the Crown or to Canada. And so we give our heartfelt thanks to them for allowing us to meet together on their land and host this event on their territory. And we also would like to let everyone know that this is a safe space for each of the discussions that will be taking place. We have no tolerance whatsoever for any hate of any kind, and this includes homophobia, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, misogyny, and sexism, just to name a few. If anyone engages in this vitriol, they will be promptly kicked out and will not be allowed back in to attend any other panel. And if you notice someone engaging in this behavior, please do not engage this person. Please let us know by DMing us over social media and we will handle everything. We do have people monitoring things in the background to make sure that everything is staying a safe space, because that's the whole point. We want to be able to engage in discussion and make sure everybody feels safe and welcome. Okay, so now we're going to get to something a little more light and talk about summer. So with everything going on, some people's summer plans have probably changed here and there, and it's important that everyone is staying safe. But let's get started on the questions. I'll introduce our panelists. We have Rachel Lynn Solomon and Lindsay Wong. If you guys want to just introduce yourself a little bit and talk about your books that focus on summer, and kind of talk a little bit about what inspired you to start that idea, just to start, and then we'll get into our questions.
Sure. I'll go. When there's only 2 people, it's harder for someone to speak up first. So I am Rachel, and my next book comes out in 10 days. It is my 3rd book, and it is Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. And it is about rival overachievers who realize on the last day of senior year, over the course of 24 hours, that maybe they don't actually hate each other as much as they thought. So it does take place. It is technically summer. It's like June 13th throughout the whole book. It might actually be June 12th. I remember we changed it to match up with the actual calendar. It just deals with a lot of high school nostalgia and sort of fear and uncertainty about what's next, which I think is applicable at most stages of life. And it's all wrapped up in this really fun enemies to lovers romantic comedy that was just an absolute blast to write. And I was inspired by, for this particular book, I was inspired by 2 movies that I saw several years apart. And the first one is a movie called Before Sunrise. And it came out in the 90s, and it is about 2 people who meet on a train to Vienna. Or they meet on a train in Europe, and they get off in Vienna, and they just spend the entire day walking around, exploring the city and talking. And I remember I saw this movie years ago, and I was like, I wish I could write a book like that, that's just 2 people walking around talking. And my partner was like, that sounds very boring. So I was like, yeah, that sounds like a challenge. I'll just kind of put that away. And then in 2017, I saw the movie Dazed and Confused for the first time. And it just felt like one of those big pieces of pop culture that most people have seen. And it is pretty problematic. I hesitate to recommend it because there's just some really upsetting stuff, as is the case for most movies made in the 80s and 90s, unfortunately. But the whole thing takes place in 24 hours on the last day of senior year. And I just loved the atmosphere and how it captures just that feeling of being on the cusp of something. Mm-hmm. And at that point, those two ideas kind of coalesced in my mind, and I wanted to do an updated, YA novel version of Dazed and Confused with the kind of love story from Before Sunrise, with just two people, falling in love over the course of a day.
Nice. Okay, Lindsay, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so my book is My Summer of Love and Misfortune. It's my debut YA, and it's about a 17-year-old girl called Iris Wang. And she's someone who really doesn't know who she is or what she wants to do for life. She sort of fails out of high school, doesn't get into any colleges, and her parents, being Asian American, freak out, and they decide to send her to Beijing. And when she gets to Beijing, she's supposed to learn, hard work and responsibility and a little bit about who she is. But what happens is she gets into a lot of trouble, and she ends up falling for her Mandarin tutor. And so along the way, she also gets to meet family that she didn't know existed and eat a lot of food. So food is a huge part of the book. I was inspired by two things. One, at the time I was writing it, I was working as like a college admissions consultant, and Vancouver has a really big international student population. And for some reason that year, I got all these students who didn't want to study. They were more interested in getting tattoos and partying, and their parents were like, no, they have to get into college. They have to get into college. And I was like, but how can I make someone study for the SATs or do work if they don't want to do it? And so it was a year of me chasing around these students who were, wrecking their parents' cars, and they were living in like the Shangri-La. So it was like, the gossip girl sect for like Asians. And then the second part of how I was inspired was I had never been to Asia before. I was born and raised in Vancouver and had never gone back to the homeland. And one day my dad was like, we're going to do a family vacation to Hong Kong. And I was like, okay, cool, free trip. I'm not going to turn down, something free with lots of food. We get there and my dad's like, okay, these are people that, they're related to us. This is family. And I'm like, you never told me that we were related to these people. And my dad was like, yeah, because they're not important, but now you should know about them. And so as you can tell, it's a very like crazy, eccentric family. And so those 2 weeks we were meeting people we didn't know, and we were just eating like 6 meals a day. I ate like so many noodles, and so a lot of that became part of the book.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's interesting, Rachel bringing up the point of like, feeling like you're on the cusp of something in like before you head into your summer after your senior year. And for me, when I was in 9th grade, my drama teacher, we were having discussions in drama class about change and what we go through as teenagers. And she brought up how she felt when she graduated high school, and how it felt like a chapter was literally like a chapter in a book was literally closing. And that stuck with me throughout like my entire high school career, and leading up to like when it was like, okay, it's my senior year and now I'm heading into the summer. Like, am I going to have that feeling of like, okay, a chapter has closed and like now I'm moving on? And that kind of statement and vision and like that feeling stuck with me throughout my entire high school career. And then even through university, as I like got closer and closer to graduation, I'm like, oh wow, now I have like these next steps to do, and like another chapter is coming, right? So
yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, because it's not, I think there's so much focus on like one thing ending, but you're not, if it's a chapter, obviously there's going to be a chapter after that, assuming that's not the very end. But yeah, it's just sort of these different stages that all make up a book, if we're sticking with that metaphor. But just what you said reminded me of, it's been interesting with this book because, the whole thing takes place on the last day of senior year. The main characters are playing this game. The senior class tradition takes them all over Seattle, and it is something that absolutely would not be able to happen now. And I had this moment of the sort of panic that like the book might feel just upsetting to read, because it presents this kind of alternate 2020 class of, or 2020 graduating seniors, but I think a lot of those feelings about, like what you said about opening a new chapter and being on the cusp of something are still very relatable. Even if, people can't quite play it out exactly as it is in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we should give a salute to all the grads of 2020 as we are discussing this, because, it's been a very odd grad year for everybody that's celebrating, and everyone's had to adjust and find different ways to celebrate. But I think that's, also the magic of who we are as people, and the technology that we have, and still just being resilient and finding a way to still celebrate those transitions and those moments. And yeah. Okay, so let's get into some of our questions. What was your most memorable or life-changing summer experience as a young adult? Who wants to start?
Do you want to start, Lindsay? I just talked a lot.
Yeah, I never know when to jump in or not on Zoom. I had a really weird adolescence. That's why I wrote a memoir on it. I have a really crazy Chinese family. And so my summers were either spent in like hockey camp, or we were camping in the Walmart parking lot. And not a lot really happens at Walmart. It was a lot of shopping and watching people, and eating a lot of junk food. After high school graduation, I sort of like ran away to Honolulu, and I got into a bus accident, and it was really scary because I didn't know, I didn't have anywhere to live. And that was definitely really life-changing, and it sort of, I learned a lot about like agency and self-esteem. When I ended up calling my mom to come get me, she came. And so it really taught me that, Asian families can be insane and crazy, but they will come get you if you need them. And so for me, I would probably say my trip to Honolulu was the most memorable, life-changing summer. It was not fun exactly, but I learned a lot.
Oh my gosh, I'm relieved you're okay. That's terrifying.
I survived.
Yes. I was hoping that you would mention the camp story. Lindsay
God.
and I were on a panel a few weeks ago, and that was the one that you got paid to go to?
Yeah. So I was not an athletic kid, and my dad wanted me to kind of assimilate into Canadian culture and also lose weight. So I would be paid like $7.99 an hour to go to hockey camp. So
$7.99. I love the specificity.
Yeah. I took a lot of Gatorade breaks. I was not very athletic at all.
Well, I guess I will share my one traumatic summer camp experience, and then I will share a more positive experience. But yeah, my traumatic camp experience was the summer that my parents, sort of similarly, were like, you and your sister are out of shape, and you're just sitting there on the couch watching TV. And Rachel, you're very shy, so let's send you to extreme sports camp. And it was the worst week of my life. We had to do rock climbing. We had to learn how to ride a unicycle. We did whitewater rafting. We did archery. There was a cute counselor that made it like just the tiniest bit better. I remember there was just like one of those, like a camp photo, and I had it on my wall for like years afterward, just with like I think I had the counselor's face circled. Not creepy at all.
Cute.
Yeah. So that was, it definitely stands out in my memory that summer. But in a more positive light, in high school, I was in a punk rock band with a few of my friends. It was an all-girl band, and I played guitar, keyboard, and I wrote songs and sang. I don't know who let me do this because I am not a good singer. It was basically none of us wanted to, and I wanted to like the least, or I didn't want to the least. So I became the singer, and I just have these really good memories of playing local shows at just like little festivals and teen venues around Seattle. And yeah, it's just sort of it felt very like it felt like the kind of thing I would want to write a YA novel about, and I have tried, but I never quite got it right.
Well, maybe one day you'll get.
Maybe one day, yeah.
All right. Wonderful, awesome. So another question and kind of theme of this one is, what is your favorite summer drink? Like, what is your go-to, whether it's like, you know, alcoholic or not? What is your favorite summer drink?
Sure. So I will usually go for like an iced chai. I really love chai, or a smoothie, which is what this is. And we recently got these like washable straws. They're just like these metal straws. Yeah, and they're just really great to have. Yeah, I'm not a huge beverage person. I really just drink tons and tons of water. But yeah, those are two of my favorites.
How about you, Lindsay?
Oh, I love bubble tea, especially taro bubble tea. I will actually kind of drink anything, especially with caffeine in it. I like my ice cream floats. I like my milkshakes. I like my caramel frappuccinos. But I would have to say my favorite would probably be taro bubble tea.
And you had a recipe that you wanted to share with us, right?
Yeah, it's on my Instagram, but it's actually really easy to make. You get these pearls from like an Asian grocery store like T&T, and then you just follow the instructions on that. And then for the bubble tea recipe, you just add like your 3 tablespoons of powder. So it could be like taro, mango, or lychee, whatever you can find. I've also been using like real taro. I've been like boiling it and like chopping it up. And it's like really good too. And then you just add like 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1 1/3 cup of ice cubes, and then 1/4 cup of 2% milk. I think you have to make it has to be like extra fatty, and then 2 tablespoons of cream, and then you just like blend it all up in the blender, and it's really good.
Oh, that sounds
Oh, it sounds.
And you can also cut down the sugar too, but I mean I like things really sweet. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like this powdered chai, this like tin of powdered chai powder actually, that I ordered because it's the same one that my regular coffee shop uses. And it's like a Pavlovian response that if I have that chai, I will feel like I should be productive because I'm just so used to going to my coffee shop and getting it. But yeah, I think it says like 2 tablespoons on the package, and I definitely do like 3 to 4.
Nice.
That sounds so good. I need to try it.
It's David Rio. They have like a bunch. They're really good.
Nice. I see. My favorite, funnily enough, is also like iced chai. One of my favorite go-tos, and caramel frappuccinos and
So good.
iced coffee, anything like that. If it's more like, like for the caffeine side of it, yeah, any of those are great and like my definite summer go-to drinks. Okay, let's see. What is your favorite thing about summer? Lindsay, do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I love the sun, love hot weather. When everything is like, when I was living on the East Coast, things would be like 30 degrees and like everyone's having their barbecues, and you can, kind of just suntan and relax and just, eat a really good barbecue with friends. And I also really miss the beach this year, I want to go parasailing and jet skiing, but I don't think I can because of the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're adventurous though. That's awesome. I've never done either of those. So
it's really fun. I mean, parasailing's more relaxing. I keep trying to make other writers come skydiving with me, but no one wants to. So I don't know. We'll have like a group event, right? And just all jump.
Have you been?
No, but I really want to.
I open up a window to Google the conversion of 30 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit.
Oh, like 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
How about you, Rachel?
Yeah, gosh. Okay, so I might get kicked out of the panel for saying this, but like I am very much a gloomy weather person. I love the rain. I love clouds. I love cold weather outside, so I can just be cozy inside. But I do enjoy like taking my dog on long walks. Yeah, definitely liked going to, I mean, in the Pacific Northwest, our beaches are not like the best.
Yeah.
I always get so jealous seeing pictures of people on the East Coast at like with like real beaches, because we don't, I mean, we do have beaches, but they're just very rocky and cold. Um, the sand is just like this beautiful gray. um, but yeah, I do miss the coast here is really beautiful, even if it's not as hospitable as it might be on the East Coast. And we also just have a lot of like amazing hiking trails, just so much like greenery and outdoorsy stuff.
Yeah, I have to say that's the one thing for me that I miss about Los Angeles, because my family moved to Vancouver from Los Angeles, and the California beaches are some of the best beaches like on the West Coast, right? And so I definitely miss those. And then being up here in BC, we have some amazing, mountains and forests. Like it's very similar obviously to the, because we're part of the Pacific Northwest, very similar to like Oregon and Washington beaches, and it's gorgeous.
They're pretty, but yeah. Yeah, I remember I went to LA for the first time a few years ago, and I was just amazed because I was like, oh, this is what a beach is.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so warm. The sand is just like so silky and lush, and there were people there like having fun, which is not something that tends to happen at our beaches.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. For me, I think my favorite thing about summer is like, and especially on the West Coast up here in BC, is it's staying lighter out later. And that, like, I don't like being hot. I don't like it when it's muggy, but it is nice to have like, the nice blue skies once in a while, and being able to kind of stay outside later. One of my favorite things about the summer is like the evenings when it cools down, and you can, still go and sit outside for a little bit or go for a walk or something. And
yeah, when we get so much light here, I think then more than most of the rest of the country, in terms of staying late longer. That's always been nice. My grandpa would always like track the sunsets, and like every time he passed away, but he would just get so much joy out of telling us like what time the sunset was, and like how close we were to the solstice, or how close we were until the end of summer. So I when I think about sort of days getting longer, I always kind of think of my grandpa, and that's always a very nice memory.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's so awesome when, someone in your family like gets excited about something like that, and, shares with you, and can be a memory that you go back to. Okay, let's see. What was your dream summer vacation growing up? You want to go ahead, Rachel?
Sure. So I think my dream summer vacation would have required the band that I was in being good, because my dream summer vacation would have involved like us going on a tour, but like, the kind of like a road trip kind of tour, just driving around to local venues. And essentially, if you've ever read The Disenchantments by Nina LaCour, I read that book and I was like, oh my God, this was my dream in high school. Just this terrible band like touring, Washington, Oregon, California. But yeah, we were not good, and that never happened.
How about you, Lindsay?
When I was 6, like I wanted to be Charlie and visit the chocolate factory, and that would have been my ideal vacation, just like living in a chocolate factory. But in high school, one of my classmates, she actually got to go on this like world cruise, and I think that would be amazing, like if you like got on a ship and you just like stopped in like every country, and you could like eat your way through like Europe, South America, and Asia. Like I would totally do that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I am get a little nervous about cruises, but doing something that like takes you on a global scale like that would be incredible. I feel like that's just, and for me, I don't know, I was fairly lucky because we had family in California, and so for a couple of summers we go on a road trip to go down there to visit them. And so that was always nice getting back to go to the beach and going back to LA and go to California. But I feel like it'd also be cool to go to Europe. I've always wanted to go, and I feel like it'd just be an incredible experience going around to the different areas. I have not left the continent of North America, so I want to go and explore more, and always have.
Me too. I want to eat gelato in Italy. I've not been to Italy yet, but that's what I want to do.
Oh my gosh, we were planning, so well, obviously it's not happening now, but we were, my husband and I, we've never been on like a big trip together, and we had narrowed it down to Japan and Italy. We both we're like at the top of our lists, and yeah, like, well, the food was a big factor in getting both of those at the top. So definitely one day, but yeah, I agree with you. I would so love to eat gelato in Italy, or like take a pasta making class or something.
Oh yeah,
It would be amazing. Yeah, and so how did your summer plans for this year change with everything going on? Did you guys have trips planned that had to be, rearranged, or Lindsay, do you want to go first?
I didn't really make any summer plans. I think a lot of my festivals were canceled, and I was really looking forward to like going to Montreal and just eating poutine, and like yeah, you hear like all about poutine and like the ice cream, so things like that. I was supposed to be in Saskatoon, I think, last week, and I don't know what's in Saskatoon to eat, but that's like what I look
You would
forward
find
to.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I always like whenever I'm like on the road or like at festivals, I always like grab all the other brothers and like, let's eat, you know. And so that's what I miss about the summer. But I guess I can stay in and write. I have to do a lot of writing.
Yeah, we didn't really have any concrete plans either. I think because, well, so my book is now, it feels like it's marked the summer in different ways, because it was going to be releasing in mid-June and then got pushed to mid-July, and now it's like end of July. So by the time it was end of July, it was very clear that things were not going to be different by the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really enjoy doing like little local trips around the Pacific Northwest. So I'm actually thinking of doing like a little trip out to the coast, maybe down to Ocean Shores for a few days in August. Just very like rent kind of like an isolated little Airbnb or something, and just for a break from everything. Because yeah, right now most of the plans have just been writing. This past week was, I think, the first time I haven't been on deadline for something in many months. So it's been a nice little break, but yeah, I have a feeling that once my book comes out, I will want to relax a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I work for Modern Dog and Modern Cat magazine, so
Best job.
Yeah, I love my job. But speaking of, you can probably hear my cats freaking out in the background. They're chasing each other. Wonderful. But yeah, we've been busy. Like, we've been really lucky because we've been able to work from home, and still meet all of our press deadlines. And we're currently on deadline for our fall issue of Modern Dog. It will be going to press with that next week. So it's been pretty busy for me as well in terms of like being on deadline and staying busy with work. So I haven't had a chance to really make any plans for summer. But I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing that did change was Infusion, right? We had been planning to do the second festival, and we're really lucky to have completed it and are doing it online, and we're really lucky to have the technology that we do. And I keep saying that even to my coworkers as well, like, things wouldn't be able to keep moving the way they have without the technology that we have. And I'm so grateful that we're able to host this and have these different discussions throughout the day, and because of technology.
Yeah, I think one thing that's made it hard to take breaks now, though, and I sort of alluded to this, is like when you're working remotely, it's so hard to not be working.
Yep, absolutely.
Like I was working. I left this job 2 years ago, but for several years I was working full time remotely, and while writing, and I thought that it was just such a great job because, like, I was working from home. No one would notice if I was like secretly pulling up my book while, during my downtime.
Yeah.
But any downtime you have the rest of the time, like evenings and weekends, you're just like, oh, I'll just go check my email. And so work-life balance has definitely been a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I know it's interesting having the technology that we do. Again, like I said, we're lucky to have it because it's enabled us to do that. But it's also hard to kind of like set that boundary of like, okay, like I have my remote access and my remote desktop, like, and I can just quickly, I need to double check this, I need to double check that. So it's like, okay, how do you set the boundary, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so our next question is, why do you think the YA genre likes to explore the idea of summer vacation and kind of the coming of age that surrounds summer? Lindsay, why don't you start?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think with summer, that's supposed to be the time, like, you're not in school, right? Hopefully you don't have parents who send you to camp or they make you do summer school. And, there's 2 months. That's a lot of time. Like, anything could happen, right? You could get sent to live with relatives in an exotic location, or you could be unsupervised, right? And I think that's like the perfect time for YA to happen, right? It's all about, change and growth and kind of discovering who you are. I think that's probably why the YA genre likes to explore summer.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that unstructured feeling. I mean, just logistically, not having school, you're not bound by needing to get your character to classes. Like, I remember the first draft of my second book, which takes place over an entire school year, our year of maybe. I very rarely had the characters in school. Like, I might have had only one scene, and my editor was like, "Are they going to school?" And I was like, "Yeah, but they have other stuff going on." So it's just, when you set something during the school year, like, it is something that you need to acknowledge when you're writing contemporary, even if they're not having like active plot lines involving school. Like, that is a huge part of their lives. Like, that was absolutely a huge part of my life. But in the summer, yeah, I mean, I almost think it harkens back to what I was saying before about that feeling of like being on the cusp of something. And there are just so many opportunities and so many just like friendships, relationships, jobs, vacations. Like, I think it is just so much more open than the school year in terms of like where you can physically place your characters and what they can, not even just what they can do logistically, but like I think the themes that are open to you to explore as an author. You're just bound by a lot less when you set something in the summer.
Yeah. And what are some of the themes that you think are really useful in the YA genre for, focusing on a specific time of year, or like exploring what characters are going through?
I mean, I feel for summer, definitely like first love is a really big one. My book that's coming out next year is actually a summer book. Like, it takes place over the whole summer. Whereas Today, Tonight, Tomorrow is just barely summer. But yeah, I think there's just this very like cinematic, heady feeling associated with summer, especially I think the summer between high school and college, because you're like, I'm not quite a kid anymore. trying really hard not to reference the Britney Spears song. You're not a kid anymore, but you're also, there's still so many things that you cannot do. But it's really also a time, I think, of like testing boundaries and like testing what you are allowed to do. I mean, just with what restrictions your parents might have in place, or I remember very much feeling the summer after high school of like wanting to break out of this really shy, quiet, like introverted shell that I had been in all throughout high school. And just, I think the idea of like reinvention is very appealing. And yeah, when you're not in school, you don't have to be like your school self or like your school persona. Like you're very different. And a lot of people are very different during the summer.
Absolutely. Lindsay, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think coming of age especially is super important when you write summer books for YA. You mentioned, the summer between high school and college, right? And that's a big time. Like, I would actually read a YA about someone who completely reinvented themselves in 2 months, and just like you could fake an entire personality or try on different, hats and see who you wanted to be.
I feel like there totally is one. And it's of course escaping me, but I know there is a book that's like where someone has their school year self, and then they have sort of like their summer self, maybe when they go to summer elsewhere and they like become kind of a different person.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is, but I think there's definitely something there. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to jump in.
No, I think that's great. I mean, transformation, especially, it's so interesting, and I think it's really important, like, about who you could be as a person and the possibilities, I think that's the best part about YA set in the summer.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I actually didn't read any of the Babysitter Club books growing up, but I was also a bookseller at Indigo for a little while when going to university, and so it like they have the new Babysitters Club graphic novels and stuff like that, and it was always a super popular book. But I binged the Netflix series because I kept like the new series because I kept hearing how like cute and well done it was, and I don't want to spoil anything, but one of the episodes they go to a summer camp, and so it kind of like focuses on that idea of like what the girls went through or what they go through and like how they change and like what they explore, and yeah, it was cute to see kind of like a preteen version of that, right? Because that's something that like in the YA genre or like middle grade is also a big genre that explores coming of age and what the changes that middle grade age range goes through.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's see, what else do you guys have coming up? So what are your next projects over the next little while that you want our Infusion viewers to know about?
Well, yeah, mine is pretty immediate. It's out in 10 days, today, tonight, tomorrow. And then after that, I have my first adult book. It's called The X Talk. It is a romantic comedy set in the world of public radio, and that is coming out in February.
Wonderful. How about you, Lindsay?
I have just been working on another YA about a teen with OCD, and I've just been revising a collection of immigrant horror stories. So we'll see if that works.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've just been trying different things and experimenting.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you guys want to discuss or want to share with our Infusion viewers about what we've discussed so far and about your projects and about the YA genre? Anything else?
I don't know.
Are there any questions for us?
Yeah.
Let's see. Doesn't look like we have anything from the Q&A yet. Well, which is a perfect time. Anybody that's watching, do you guys have any questions? Please feel free to submit them via the Q&A right now so we can keep our discussion going, and we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Let's see.
kind of wish that we were having this event in an actual like beverage shop, like at like an ice cream parlor, and we could just like pair books, you know? I'm always saying
gosh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, just pair books with ice cream or like beverages, like in a bubble tea shop or even like a coffee shop. That would be so fun, right? Can you imagine just
Yes.
sitting there drinking and like talking books, and then people could come in and we could just like pair books for fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So if you guys could pick a beverage or like a summer treat that would match your book that just came out or will be coming out, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, I would say like my first book, my memoir, it's like I would say like I don't know if it's a beverage, it's more like a like a mud pie from Red Robin's, like really chocolatey, right, with the whipped cream. For this book, I would say, was it called a unicorn wrap a while back? It was really colorful. I never tried it, but it looked really fun. Yeah, I would probably say that. Or this could be like, I don't know, it could be like an ice cream float with like lots of sprinkles and whipped cream. Lots of whipped cream.
Oh my gosh, wait, unicorn frappuccino is like the perfect drink for that book. Totally.
I'm gonna try one now.
I know, they got to bring it back just for that book.
Yes.
You'll bring it back when you do the event.
Okay.
In real life. For this book, so I was just trying to think, because it takes place in 24 hours, like everything the main character eats. And she eats terribly on this day, I have to say. She eats they go to an Indian buffet, she eats pizza, she eats pasta, she eats a bagel like late at night. And I was like, does she actually drink anything? But then I remembered that like in chapter 2, she gets coffee and she gets in a car accident and spills it all over herself. And then because I'm a terrible person, she spends the whole rest of the day, the whole rest of the book, with a giant stain on her dress. So I guess it would be coffee that you spill on yourself.
An iced coffee?
No, it's hot.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Is there cream and sugar in it, or is it just like black coffee?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I'm not a coffee person, so I would have to, I think it's a hazelnut latte. I think that's what I gave her.
Okay. That's delicious.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for taking the time to share your books and your stories and discuss this light topic with us. And, it's a nice change of pace, because I know everybody's been pretty stressed and there's a lot going on, but I'm very excited that we were able to make this all work, and proud of our team, and grateful to the authors that have spent the time to join us. And hopefully in 2021 we can do a bigger event in person.
Thank you all so much for putting this together and just making it go so smoothly. And Lindsay, it was so nice to talk again.
Yeah, it was great chatting again, and thank you so much for having me and us, and this was really, really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you guys. And thank you to everyone who joined in the audience as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oops, sorry, before everyone goes, I'm really sorry to jump in. Nicole Folkman said, fantastic, looking forward to your books. Thank you all so much.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, and just a reminder, we have another panel coming up at 1 p.m., so in about 15 minutes. And if you guys are interested, it's the Who Done It panel. And it's going to be kind of a Jeopardy style. We've got some questions and going to explore the mystery and, the mystery and fantasy genre and in YA.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks so much.